Hello, in this video Kim and myself are going to lead you through some of the frequently asked questions we get around coaching and becoming a coach. Often these questions are asked by people maybe like yourself who are just starting out looking at coach training and are interested in becoming a coach, but you'd like to know a little bit more. So our first question, just a small question this one. What is coaching?
It's a big question.
And is it for me? So I'll start with the definition. First of all, so the International Coaching Federation, the ICF, which we're accredited with actually, Barefoot's program is accredited with, talk about coaching as being partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. So I really like that. I like the idea of the provoking and working in partnership in a creative way in particular. Tim Gallwey, some of you may know about Tim Gallwey, who I think back in the 60s and 70s actually was talking about the inner game of many different things. Inner game of tennis, I think, was the first one. And he talks about the idea that the idea of a coaching session is that the client is more capable of mobility in their thinking as a result of actually having a coaching session in particular, which I think is really nice.
I really like that too, because it dispels that myth that you have to have a goal that you have to have reached, and that's not the way we work. It's a continuous development process.
So at its heart, coaching is a conversation. Actually, that's the best way of putting it. It's a conversation that we're having, but it's also a lot more than that. It's not just about the quality of the questions or the frameworks that you might choose to use. It's about creating a very unique relationship, a space where your client can be themselves, can put aside some of the ways that they would normally act and try new ideas, new ways of behaving, explore new thoughts in a really safe environment.
Yeah, that's lovely. As we're sitting here with all our many coaching, self-development business books behind us, I wanted to share a slightly more playful definition that I sometimes use, which is working with a coach is like having a business book or a self-development book come to life. I mean, all these books, I have probably read them all. Have I done all the exercises where it says now stop and reflect and now complete the answers to these questions? No. I kind of think I've done it just because I've read it. And I think working with a coach, actually, you do those things. You do stop, you reflect, and you make small incremental changes along the way. And you have the encouragement, the support, the challenge of someone who cares about you.
And you've not only, of course, I think you have read all of them, by the way.
I think I have.
She's also written a number of them. To be clear, as have a number of Barefooters, by the way. I think we've got quite a few Barefoot alumni books.
Yeah, we've got a whole shelf dedicated to
Love that.
Barefoot alumni books. Yeah.
So the first part of the question, that was meant to be the easy question to start with, but there was a second part, there was a follow-up part to that question, which is, and is it for me? So where do we start on that? Because I think each person that decides to go forward to train as a coach, irrelevant really of where they use that coaching, I think it's a very personal decision, but there are probably some look-fors, I think. My look-for was I was in a corporate career for many years in a number of large organisations, and I just noticed I'd become completely intrigued and energized by helping others develop. I just remember that was kind of like a really big moment of just suddenly thinking, like I do all of the tangible, rational stuff in my job, getting stuff done. But when it came to working with others, developing others and developing myself, I really got so much energy from that. There was something in that I think guided me towards becoming a coach. But it may have started earlier for you. I mean, maybe in the playground even, when you were at school.
I think that's where it started for me. That's why I wrote the course, because there wasn't one. But seriously, we hear what you've just said, Andy, over and over again, don't we? We hear people saying, I went into HR because I wanted to help people and all I've done is policies. So I think coaching will enable me to do that. We hear it with people who are retiring after a long corporate career who say, I want to give something back I've learned a lot about myself. I want to help others now who are at the early stages of their career. But also, I really was the kid in the playground who everyone came to with their problems, issues, and it was just a kind of life position that I had from early on, and we hear lots of people saying that too.
We do,
don't we?
We really do.
Just got a natural amount of empathy and curiosity for people.
So that was the kind of the first big question: what is it, and is it for me? The second question was a bit more focused on the coaching sector, actually. So one of the questions we will typically get, well, we hear there are millions of coaches out there and it's saturated. So how am I ever going to become a successful coach? I don't know where to start on that really, but we've got a few ideas that we'd like to share with you.
Yeah.
Where should we start, Kate?
Well, as you said that, I thought it was really interesting because many years ago when the course started, people used to say, oh, there aren't many coaches, so how do I become a successful coach? And now all these years later, they're saying the market's saturated. So I used to say back then, well, what a great opportunity, the whole field's wide open for you. And now I say, it's a really established industry. And
how interesting.
People know about it. Back then, lots of people had misconceptions about coaching, that prejudices, and it probably was a harder sell back then, actually. Now, coaching, you can't open a newspaper without reading something about coaching. So I often say to people, I've never heard anyone say, I don't think I'll become an accountant or a dentist, because there's already a lot of them.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really great time now, genuinely. We haven't got to persuade anyone of its value.
No.
There's evidence.
And talking of value, the market, I mean, it depends on where you look, but if you look again using the ICF as a benchmark, the market's size by revenues circa in excess of $3 billion. Let's start with that. According to the ICF survey back in 2020, there are 66,000 coaches who have gone through some form of accredited program, not just with the ICF, but largely through an accredited coach training provider of some kind. Now that's global, which is kind of interesting. So actually, if you think about that as kind of relative to the size of the population of the earth, it's actually tiny. But it's probably just worth saying that. Now, there are a lot of people out there who call themselves coaches and may not have gone through any training and may not have any experience. And I guess that's one of the challenges for the sector and the industry, is that actually it's not regulated in that way. Which is why it's probably really important that for those considering becoming a coach, actually it really matters to be able to choose an accredited training program in particular.
And I think buyers of coaching are more educated now about accreditation in coaching and look only for accredited coaches. When you said 66,000, I thought, well, we've trained 4,500 of
Correct.
those. That's quite a large proportion,
I know,
isn't it?
I know. It's ginormous. Yeah, it's a ginormous proportion of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, in total. Yeah, which is
Yeah.
incredible. Okay, so the quick answer is we don't believe that it is saturated. We think it's an established market, and now's a really good time to get into it. There we go. That's that. Okay, yeah, big question now. Actually linked to finances, linked to earnings.
Yeah.
So what should I expect to earn as a coach? And how long does it take almost to kind of earn a living? So there's a few kind of other embedded questions in all of this, but I think we'll start with what can I expect to earn as a coach? I think our starting point would be, we're happy to share kind of almost, what do we charge? Actually, our typical rate card as we're kind of working in the corporate sector, because not only do we train people to become coaches, but often we of course have the beautiful opportunity to be able to work with many of the people we've trained to go and coach in organisations, which is fantastic on an associate basis.
Yeah.
But typically for our clients, let's try to think about what would we charge. So in the corporate sector, where the organisation is funding that work, I would say we can charge £400 an hour, typically.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, privately funded, less so. I would say probably more like 200 quid.
Yeah.
What What do you think?
Yeah.
There or thereabouts?
Yeah, even sometimes less for charities.
Yeah. And that's the amount that we're charging an hour. Of course, it doesn't really help you understand, well, typically as a coach, what will you earn? There was an ICF survey I was looking at a while ago, and they were talking about, I think typically they said that coaches could earn up to about $50,000 a year. But it was only partial, really, because in truth, 93% of those individuals they surveyed actually did coaching and other things. So they might continue to do consultancy, or they may offer other services in addition, training, for example. So it's kind of difficult to get a read on that in particular. What were your thoughts on that?
I agree with that, and I think most coaches, certainly straight out of a coach training program, will also offer other services. I think that's quite usual and many people continue to have that mixed portfolio of coaching and related services, training, teaching, consulting. I also want to say, don't believe these sort of amazing sums that people quote sometimes, because we're a big organisation, we're a leading organisation in coaching and coach training. We work with some of the biggest organisations in the world, actually. Our client list is impressive, although we don't often shout about it a lot. And we don't charge these sort of 10-figure sums that people quote. So there's a bit of spin sometimes. Don't be off-put. I think the figures that Andy's given are fairly realistic expectations. Somewhere between 200 and 400 pounds an hour when you're established. Of course, when you're getting established, it may be considerably lower than that, just to build up client hours.
Well, that was the next question, which I think we often get, which is not only what can I expect to earn, but how long does it take to earn a living? It's actually a very surprisingly simple question. It's actually quite a difficult question to answer because it can vary massively. If I think about my own experience of starting my own coaching business, which I did, actually relatively quickly, I think I was earning what I would hope to earn from that work. But I was in a position where I think I had certain, I had a good hand that had been dealt to me. Not least of which was I'd come from a big corporate background, and I got a lovely black book which had got everybody in it, and it meant that actually I could get going quite quickly. I was able to find clients through the relationships I already had, but that isn't always typical, and I think it can take several years, I think, to build up a business.
It can do. It really, you've said it, it really depends where you've come from, the work that you've been doing, the sector that you're looking to work in, because most people are going back into the sector in which they're familiar. It's quite hard if you've been working in the charity sector to move into international, coaching people in international banking, for example. In time, when you become known as a successful coach, you can cross all sectors, but in the beginning, people usually stay in the lane in which they're familiar. So, of course, fees vary depending on the type of organisations that you're working with. And I would think, if you don't have a black book full of contacts, it could take 2 to 3 years before you are earning all your money from coaching. Would you?
I think so. It feels true to say that, and it also I think for me feels true to say that there is a difference between being a practically confident, qualified, accredited, credentialed coach, and then being able to do something with that to actually create a business. And the two can be different, and I think it's really important just to kind of maybe call that out now. That's one of the reasons why we are about to launch our up and running program, which we mentioned in another video, but it might be just worth saying. Is it worth saying a few words about that now?
Yeah, definitely. So we have been putting together a fantastic program which is available exclusively to Barefoot trained coaches. It's not going to be made available to anyone else. It's a whole year's program full of support, resources, webinars, videos, group coaching sessions to support people in getting their businesses up and running. And all the content has been provided by, curated by Barefoot, provided by tutors and other barefooters who, out of the goodness of their hearts, are just sharing their stories, their experiences, their top tips for getting a business, coaching business going. It's really an act of generosity, I think, on many people's parts to give away all their business secrets, but it's come out of a desire to help everyone who's done the Barefoot course achieve what they wanted from it. And that's the other thing that I would actually say. I've always said this, and I mean it. There's no way I would have kept training people to be coaches if I didn't think there was a market for them, or B, the potential for them to earn a living from it. I simply couldn't have. It's never been about, Barefoot making money from coach training. It's been about giving people a real opportunity to change their lives and do work that will help them and others. And therefore, 20 plus years on, I can confidently say that every single person who intended to set up a coaching business has done. And over the years, we see them going from strength to strength. It may be a slower build sometimes, but I've really put my hand on my heart and say it's very possible, because we've seen it 4,500 times over.
Lovely. Thanks, Kim. Last couple of questions in this particular video. We've got a question which I think the two are linked, actually, the last two questions. So there's a question about, is this training only for people who want to become professional coaches? And then there's a question about, can I go on to specialise? So starting with is the training only for professional coaches? The quick answer is no. There we go.
No.
So we've got, well, that was good. So we've got lots of examples of people who go off and use their coaching in a whole variety of different ways. So, for example, head teachers who go back into becoming head teachers and continue to be head teachers, but using their coaching skills in a different way. Leaders, managers across different sectors, in different countries, in different industries, again, using their coaching to become better leaders, better managers, better engineers, whatever it may be. I mean, the list is endless, really, in terms of medics, good one.
Well. Yeah, and they often set up a coaching culture in their organisation and start training internal coaches as a result of having done this programme.
So quick answer is no. Training only for professional coaches? No, it's actually for everybody. And coaching can help you be a better whatever, using those coaching skills in particular.
Yeah, and some people already have a business. They already have some, maybe an HR consultancy or a training business, and they just want to add coaching as another service.
Lovely. Final question, which is linked to that one, I think, which is, can I go on to specialise? Not only can you, but many people do. That would be the kind of starting point, I think, with this. So the programme that we run, that we're so proud of, is one which will allow you to move in a whole range of different directions from there, depending on what's of interest to you. Sometimes many people who come on the programme are very clear about, I want to become I want to work with young adults in my coaching. Others are very clear and then become unclear, and then become clear again after the programme, and they go in a different direction. So it can really vary, actually.
I love that. I really love that. It's amazing how people come with a very clear view that they want to do exec coaching. I can remember certain people who came in with strong business background, very senior corporate exec experience, saying, that's what I want to do. I want to make loads of money and coach senior corporate execs. And I remember a couple of them, well, one of them particularly set up a business called Zen Coaching, who just ran retreats on mindfulness, and another person went into sort of addiction support with people with addiction, and so the course itself can change your direction of travel in surprising and beautiful ways.
Lovely. That's it. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.